Hi guys, welcome to my channel. So I folded my fabric into two and I'll be taking 8 inches off. My corset will be starting from 8 inches that I took off. So I'm checking down my bust point line, my under bust line, and my waist line. So I went ahead to connect the lines. After which I indicated my bust points, my under bust, and my waistline. Now my nipple to nipple is 9 inches divided by 2 is 4.5. I'll chalk my 4.5 on all the lines. After which I connected them. Now on the under bust line, I'll come in by 1 inches on both sides. You come in by 1 inch on this side and also 1 inch on the other side. So I went ahead to connect the line to the waistline. On my starting line, I'll come in by 1 inch on both sides. Now I'll be connecting all my dots to meet the bust point line using my curve ruler. So just watch closely at what I'm doing. After connecting on the starting point, I came in by half an inch. I'll connect the half an inch to my bust point line. Now I'll be connecting from my under bust to my bust point line using my curve ruler. Just watch what I'm doing. After doing this, one side of our cup is ready. For the other side, I'll be taking what I have from the bust to the under bust. I have 3.5. I added half an inch to it. That's 4. So I'll chalk the 4 inches on my bust point line. Now I'll be connecting from my bust point to my under bust using my curve ruler. After connecting, you go ahead to just join that bust point line to the starting point. Now we have our cup ready. I'll go ahead to place my measurement and place back the darts. So on the starting point, I chalked down my bust point measurement. I added back my dart allowance and I added my 2 inches allowance. On my underbust, I placed my underbust measurement. I also added back the dart I took and I placed my 2 inches dart. I did the same thing for the waistline. I chalked down my waist measurement. I added back the dart I took and I chalked down my 2 inches allowance. So you go ahead to connect your dots. After connecting, our bust point is ready. I went ahead to chalk my 1 and my 2 for my cups. So you go ahead to take off your darts and you're done for the front part. So I'll be cutting it out. I'll be using the front to cut my back pattern. So for my back, I folded my pattern paper into two. I placed the front on the back just like this and I went ahead to cut. After cutting the back, this is what it looks like. So I'll be putting a loop at the back. So I'm taking 2 inches off. I'll be taking 2 inches off from my back measurement. After taking the 2 inches off, I'll be placing my dart measurement. So my nipple to nipple divided by 2 is 4.5. I chalked it after the 2 inches I took off. So I'm chalking my 4.5 at that line. So I'll connect it straight up. After doing that, on that waistline, I'll be coming in by half an inch on both sides. So I'll just connect it straight up. After doing that, the dart is ready, as you can see. So now I'll be taking off the 2 inches for the loop. Then I'll be cutting my front pattern. I'll be taking out the curves. So just watch what I'm doing closely. Now, as you can see, our cup is ready. Our patterns are ready for the front and for the back. So I'll go ahead to cut my fabric. After cutting out my fabric, this is what it looks like. I also went ahead to cut the lining, and I added half an inch sewing allowance on all my patterns. So now what I need to do is add my interfacing on my fabric on each of them. So after adding my interfacing, this is what it looks like. As you can see, I have my interfacing on all my patterns. So I'll go ahead to fold and notch the part I'll be joining together. You need to fold and notch so that you don't get confused. After doing this, I went ahead to label my 1 and 2 so you don't get confused. As a beginner, you need to do this. So after doing this, I took out my center front and the sides. So you go ahead to join them together. So you go ahead to join them by half an inch on the sides. You do the same thing for the lining. So after joining, this is what it looks like. I ironed it, and I also did the same thing for the lining. So for your bias, you can go ahead to decorate your bias any form that you like, but I will not be putting my bias on my main fabric. I'll be putting it at the back of my lining. I'll be using it for my boning channel. So what I did was place my bias at that middle point straight down. I opened my bias up, so I'll be sewing at the edge of the bias. You place your bias any way you want and you sew. After sewing my bias, this is what it looks like. I went ahead to iron it up. So now for my cups, you notched the part you'll be joining together. That's 1 and 2. You'll be joining 1 and 2 together. So you take one pieces of number 1 and one pieces of number 2. You join them together. That's the notch part. You join them together just like this, and you go ahead to sew half an inch. You do the same thing for the other cup. You take your number 1 and your number 2, the notch part, you place it together just like this, and you sew half an inch. You also do the same thing for your lining. You join your number 1 and your number 2, place it together and sew. After sewing my cup, this is what they look like. As you can see, I went ahead to iron that seam line. It is very important you iron. After doing that, I'll be placing my cup, and for my cup, you go ahead to fold your cup into two, and you just create a dart, half an inch dart, a tiny dart. It makes your cup stand out, it makes it curvy. So after joining it, this is what the cup looks like. After adding your darts, the cup is cupping already. So what we need to do now is add our cup to our fabric. So what I'll do is place my cup inside my fabric just like this. Place it inside. You go ahead to just sew at that edge line, sew it round. You do the same thing for the other cup. You place it inside just like this, and you sew it round. So after sewing my cups, this is what it looks like. As you can see, I went ahead to sew it round. This is what it looks like. So I'll be placing my cup now on my fabric. So now placing my cup, your dart must align. So you take your dart in front, place it at the dart of the cup, and you just sew it round. Make sure your darts are aligning. Place it at that dart line and you sew it. After sewing, this is what it looks like. As you can see, my corset is taking shape already. I also did the same thing for the lining. I joined it, as you can see. So now I'll be joining my lining on the main fabric just like this. You make sure your center front and the center front of your lining are equal and they are sitting together like this. You go ahead to join it straight down. After doing that, this is what it looks like. As you can see, I went ahead to iron my corset, and I'll be placing my boning on my lining. So to place my boning on my lining, I chalked where I want my boning to stop, as you can see. So that sharp edge, I don't want it to injure anyone. So what you need to do is take paper tip, then you fold it round at that sharp edge. If you don't like this hack, you can use your lighter, but I think this hack is better. So what I did was fold it and I will just put my boning in. So I did the same thing for the other boning channel. You fold it in. After doing that, my front pattern is ready already. You go ahead to iron it proper. As you can see, there's enough room for my bust to sit in. So for my back pattern, I'll be folding my pattern into two and I'll be making a dart. After doing that, I did the same thing for the lining. So I'll be placing my bias on my lining just the way I did at the front. You place your bias and you sew at the edge. So after doing that, this is what it looks like, as you can see. So now for my loop, I'll be placing my loop on my main fabric. So what you need to do is make a long bias rope and you just fold it into two and you attach it at the back of your fabric, just like this. So after doing this, my loop is already on my back pattern. So I'll go ahead to place my lining at the back of my fabric, and after placing it, I'll go ahead to sew them in. I'll sew the sides in. So after doing that, my back pattern is ready. So this is my back pattern. So what I'll do now is attach the back to the front, and I'll be holding it up with my pins. So after doing that, you go ahead to place your body measurements. So after doing all of that, my corset is ready. As you can see, it is fully ready, simple to make. Watch this video like twice and trust me, you will get it. And for your sides, go ahead to weave so that your work will be neat. You weave your sides. Corset is ready. Hope this video was very helpful to you guys. Please make sure you like, comment and subscribe to my channel. Thank you guys. Love you. Bye.